Rev up your engines! All right, today we're going to talk about Honda Pilots. Americans like bigger SUVs, and this is a nice size. This is a 2012 original owner, so I'm going to tell you all about them so you can make a wise choice if you're thinking about buying this or a different SUV. Now, to begin with, look, it's still in immaculate shape. The only way you can tell it's old is that the alloy wheels get pitted from the salt, and that's pretty normal. Now, this thing was made in the United States. It was made in Alabama. They do a decent job there, and it's four-wheel drive. This is a 2012. He's had no problems with the transmission or the drive system, but that's because it's 2012. The 2003 Pilots had transmission problems up the wazoo. They had to replace tons of transmissions, but by 2012, Honda's pretty much figured it out. He's the original owner. He has 159,000 miles on it, and it doesn't burn oil on him. There's one thing that I always warn people, and that's this. They do have good engines. The 3.5 VTEC Honda engines. They have rubber timing belts, and they're interference engines. So he was smart. He changed the water pump and the timing belt. You got to do it every 100,000 miles. If that belt breaks, pistons hit the valves. Goodbye, engine. And it's kind of stupid because Honda's still using this design in their V6 engines. Everyone else has gone to metal timing chains. It's kind of stupid that they still have this old technology. I hit a brand new one come here the other day, fancy racing Honda, and it still had a rubber timing belt on it. I can't figure it out. Now, this one also has the Variable Cylinder Management System, VCM. Changes oil and filter religiously. It doesn't burn any oil, but if you're not a fanatic about changing your oil in this thing, you're going to find that that VCM system will end up making it burn oil because it turns one cylinder on, one cylinder off. It can turn half of the 6 cylinders off if you're cruising to get better gas mileage, and that does weird things if the oil's dirty inside the engine and wears it, and many of them burn oil. This one doesn't burn oil. Disable the Variable Cylinder Management, you get a little bit worse gas mileage, but you're not going to get the engine wear. But do not use one of those ones that you plug into the dash communication interface where you plug a scan tool in, right? The OBD port. They're not made to drive your car the whole time plugged in. What you do instead, you can watch these videos. This one is the VCM Tuner. Here's their website, VCM Tuner. If you watch that video, you can see it is very easy to install it. Then you're not going to get the added wear and end up having an oil burner. Now, he takes such good care of his. It doesn't burn oil. It hasn't bothered anything. And you'll get a little bit better gas mileage. Okay, driving over here on the highway, he was getting 18.1 miles a gallon. Now, realize that this is a 13-year-old vehicle. The modern ones can get better gas mileage, but it's a big, heavy vehicle. And that's the kind of gas mileage you're going to get with the big V6 engine. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's probably one of the main reasons that Honda's still making these rubber timing belt engines, because they realize, well, their time is probably done where they're not going to have things that get lower gas mileage for all that much longer, and so they guess they don't want to retool it and make engines that are a lot more frugal. They want people to buy a 4-cylinder turbo that is rated at higher. It won't get that much higher, but it's rated at higher. So that's probably one of the reasons they haven't changed it. They run, they're great, they use quite a bit of gas, but you compare this to anything in its time, they all use a lot of gas. That's just how they do. Got a big engine, it's got plenty of power. You don't get these things for gas mileage. You don't get any big SUV for gas mileage because they all in the real world get bad gas mileage. I had a Lexus SUV for a week from Lexus one time. It was rated on the highway at 36 miles a gallon. I got like 22. So don't believe the ratings. They're baloney. A little out of the ordinary to do with. They had to replace one of the catalytic converters. It went bad. Honda replaced it, but it had like 150,000 miles at the time, so it wasn't under warranty. The warranty was gone. And I mean, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And that cost him a couple $1,000. So, hey, in the overall scheme, that's not bad for the mileage he's getting out of it, and it still runs like a clock. Now, as you look inside, hey, the leather seats are still decent. I mean, they're worn, but they're not even ripped or anything. And of course, there's a whole lot of room inside these things. That's why people buy them. As the back opens up, you can see there's a lot of space in there because he's got it down. But when you pull this up, You have rear seats that still have a reasonable amount of room in them. You got the cup holders too, and the people have actual windows they can look out of. Unlike some of the so-called three-row SUVs, a little dog could fit in it and stick its head out. It holds a lot of people comfortably. That's why people buy these. And let's listen to how solid it is. That's just stuff he has in here making a noise. The door's solid. And you can see none of it's gummy, it's not cracked. It's still in excellent shape. Nice setup, even though it's older, it's still got the Honda stuff going on here. And it's got dual AC, dual heat, a nice glove box under here, lots of room, decent dial for selecting stuff too. Start her up and listen. Smooth sounding engine. Now the engine runs perfectly fine, doesn't have any problems. And of course, it is a Honda. You're supposed to manually adjust the valves. He's never had them touched and it still runs like a clock. So let's get my computer out and see what's going on inside all these electronics. Kind of cold today, so it might take a few minutes for it to warm up. And we'll do diagnostics. Here we go. It's beeping, so it's reading it already. It already read the VIN. That was fast. It's a little bit older, so it might be a tad bit slow. And it's cold today, too. Scan the topology, so while it's doing it, we'll look around. Got a sunroof. You got a DVD player. You get entertaining people in the back. Now, it's picking up some trouble codes. We'll see whether it means anything or not, because get a catalytic converter and stuff done, and he doesn't think they reset stuff, so we'll see what's happening. Multiplex integrated control unit. There crazy stuff that is. Nonsense about the radio control system. You can see it's old school. It's even got a DVD player. It doesn't use it, so we really don't care. Oh, we'll check out the HVAC. B codes. Open or shorten the mode controller. Shorten the rear air mix control motor in the back. But the heat and the AC is working fine for him, so who really cares? These communication codes, you'll often get them on older vehicles, and they may not even have been reset when the car was worked on, so we're going to reset them. And we'll check these codes. Power windows, more crazy codes. Probably. They're not even detected. It was such a minor thing, it didn't even detect the code. So, seat heater. So let's check it out. It's got a code, but he said it works. Let's see what the code. Again, trouble codes are not detected. That's funny. Even though it says there's a code, there really isn't. We've erased them all. We'll see if anybody can come back after a road test. But now we'll start her up. And we'll look at some live data. And here comes live data. Remember, black's good, red is bad. It knows the block heater doesn't exist. Data so far looks good. Voltage is good. And look, the Lambda, the fuel control is almost perfect. One is perfect. Oh, 1.011, 1.0 run. So, 159,941 miles on it. The fuel trim is almost perfect. It's only either perfect or off like 1/1000%. You can't complain about that. Looking for red stuff or something that's out of range. Battery's putting out good voltage. Alternators 14.5, that's working. These are the rocker control arms in order to make it go to variable cylinder management. If you were on a highway cruising at 60 on flat level and you had this hooked up, you'd see some of them would turn on instead of off, so that cylinder wouldn't be firing anymore and you'd get a little bit better gas mileage. Okay, but still, he got 18.1 miles a gallon, so the system doesn't do that much. If it would have gotten 30 something, I'd be impressed, but I'm not that impressed. It's kind of a stupid system, but you know, that's engineers for you. No misfires, real surprise. Zero across the boards. Even though this car's older, it's got an awful lot of data on it. And they're all black. None of them went red. Take it for a spin. It's all but still got a backup camera. I mean, it's not the greatest looking into the sun, I'll tell you that. First thing I noticed, 150,000 miles, doesn't shake, idles like a dream, and it's a relatively high-up vehicle, so it's not going to have any problems going over this hump. It's a relatively heavy vehicle too, so it's extremely stable. And being this heavy, it's not too bad on bumps because it's a heavy vehicle and it can absorb a lot of the bumps, unlike a smaller SUV that's going to have a lot bumpier ride. It's got plenty enough horsepower to merge onto highways, as we'll find out. Here we go. Strong engine. Nice shift. engine and tranny still running like a clock. The low gas mileage is just what these things do. In the real world, that's the kind of gas mileage you're gonna get. And it handles quite well for a big vehicle. Guess the boys in Alabama did a pretty good job building this one. And these leather seats and the suspension is extremely comfortable. Man, I could drive this thing to California. I wouldn't have an achy back or a sore neck. It's an extremely comfortable vehicle. And you just feel safe in it because it's so big. Hey, Americans generally like big, and this was made in America, in Alabama, and it's really the biggest thing that Honda makes, I gotta say. They hit the nail on the head with this one. I didn't even realize, even with that good acceleration, that it was even in eco mode. So, hey, pretty good. Let's check to see if any of those ghost codes came back. They didn't, so somebody just forgot to erase them after they worked on the car. They sell a lot of them. Every year they sell over 100-something thousand of them, and they've been doing that since they started selling them in the United States almost 20 years ago. They're excellent vehicles this year. Now, like I said, most people aren't going to buy an 03 anyways. The 03's had bad transmissions. I had customers with them. They spent a fortune getting them repaired. Some of them got them free from Honda, but it was like pulling teeth. So one like this, 2012, hey, excellent vehicles. If you don't like the variable cylinder management, you can use that kit that I showed you. You can replace it, put it in, and it won't have variable cylinder management. I personally would do that because I don't like the thermodynamics of a hot cylinder, cold cylinder, hot cylinder. It just doesn't make any sense. They weren't designed that way. But still runs fine. He says he doesn't want to get payments, and said, hey, don't get another car. This thing's still in excellent shape because like everything else, they don't make them like they used to. Look at Honda. They are now having to look into 1.4 million modern V6 engines that they might be having problems with the rods going and the bearings going. This still runs fine. So, 100-something thousand people here in the United States are buying them. You find a good used one like this, might not be a bad idea. Sure, it gets lower gas mileage, but hey, you can buy an awful lot of gas with $60,000. So, let's just leave it at that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.